welcome everybody back to another episode of the Wolfcast. Last time, I was going to say week, but last time we were talking to Mike, about Myco and the Myco universe. This week, I have something slightly different. I know a lot of you have actually been seeing me recently, mostly because I'm leaving, but yeah, you've been commenting an awful lot on my weight loss, and I wanted to bring in somebody who's very special to me right now because this lovely lady has actually helped me to get into a position where I'm more confident about myself. My skin is way clearer, and I have actually been able to drop I think it's almost half a stone, or well and truly now more than half a stone. Claire at One Life. Hi, Claire.
Hi, it's your One Life. Yeah.
Your One
Hi,
Life. Sorry,
Ruben.
my
Yeah.
bad.
That's okay. Yeah. Hi. Great to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on to my Wolfcast and come and have a chat. Now, we've known each other for a bit, haven't we?
We have indeed. Yes.
Um, but I just wanted to just talk about your fabulous business because I didn't really pay too much attention to it before until very recently on the 18th of July of 2021. If anybody who's watching this in the future, way in the future, this is 2021, and I went to go and shoot with Rick, your lovely husband. And my goodness, I was shocked. um, Rick was bouncing around the studio, not something that I'm used to, and he was looking way more healthy than I have ever witnessed him in the years of knowing him. And for a long while, I've been really struggling with myself. I thought that there was something wrong with me. I thought my metabolism was broken. I was piling on the weight, and I was really struggling. And then the moment that I saw Rick in that shoot, I was just like, whoa, okay, I need to get in on this. And that's when I contacted you. So let's just talk about a little bit about what you do. Can you tell everybody like a little bit about it without giving too much?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, obviously, it's really hard in today's society to not put on weight, I think, because food is all around us, and in greater quantities and availability than ever before. And unless we're really, really clued up about exactly what we're eating, how much we're eating, then everything's up against us, because we're hardwired to eat, because eating is obviously, for one thing, we need to eat it to fuel our bodies, but we eat for a variety of reasons, many emotional reasons, whether
Oh
that be
yeah.
positive or negative. And if you think about our survival mechanisms, we have this wonderful ability to be able to store fat. So, which is
Oh yeah, we
basically
do.
energy from the food that we eat. If our bodies don't need to use it, then we're going to store it, because back in prehistoric times, we didn't know when the next meal was going to be able to come along. So that was really key in the development of the human race. Unfortunately, in today's society, food is not scarce, so we no longer need that ability to put on fat, but unfortunately our bodies haven't caught up, but obviously the food manufacturers have. And so we have foods that are as tasty as ever, or more tasty than ever, in supersized portions. We've stopped listening to our bodies, and
Absolutely.
we listen to our very sort of spoilt child brains, in that we want something and we want it now. We don't necessarily wait till we're hungry. And of course, I had years and years of very unhealthy relationship with food for that very reason, and eventually I was able to overcome it. And for the last 10 years, I've kept my weight off, and I realised that I had developed this, I think, quite rare ability to be able to do that. And I think and I would get a lot of comments from people about me being inspiring to them, or asking me how I did it. And then an opportunity sort of came my way, really, to to leave my job, and retrain and actually help other people to be able to do what I've been able to do, which is actually manage my behaviour around food in this really, really difficult modern society.
Yeah.
Um, and to help the people who really think that they can't do it, because quite often I think people resign themselves to being overweight because they've tried so many diets before and nothing seemed to work in the long run.
And that exactly was my story.
Mm.
Like, I mean, if we take a look at this photo from, I think it was like 2016, one of the photos that I had taken of me as a cannibal. It's a great
As you do.
photo. It's a badass photo. But there was something about this photo that I absolutely hate, and that is my midriff, and that is like the amount of weight that I'm carrying here. Um, I'm just going to put this up on the screen as well, so that we can have a look at this. But like my mindset in this photo was not as badass as I wanted. Like Rick did an amazing job, but I was running around an awful lot. I was eating the wrong things. I was not portion managing at all. I had no idea what I was doing. And like now that I've come to you to go, hey, I need to talk to you about my weight problems. And it just sort of came out of that. But I honestly would not have been able to do this without you. But it took seeing the difference in Rick to to approach you. So I mean, we've got a before and after photo here of what Rick was, because of obviously I was shocked and so impressed. And let's take a little look at like this photo that you've sent me of Rick. I mean, what's the time difference between these two photos?
Okay, the first photo. I mean, the first photo was taken about a year before the second photo, but he didn't actually start losing weight until about 6 months after that first photo was taken. So it was about February time to August time of 2020.
Okay.
So yeah, and he lost 4.5 stone, and he's maintained that since August 2020.
Wow.
Because he's learned how to manage his behavior around food. So it's not a kind of like, oh, I go on a diet, lose the weight, put it back on because I go back to what I was doing before. He's actually completely changed the way that he manages himself. But what I would sort of perhaps is, I think it's important to point out in terms of obviously your photo compared with Rick's photo. So Rick's photos, I mean, he was 49 at that first photo, approaching 50, and I was getting very worried about him because he was he clearly didn't seem very well, and he'd had high blood pressure readings when he'd gone for an operation a little bit before that. Mobility wasn't great. He was tired all the time. We went on holiday and he struggled to walk up hills, and it wasn't much fun for either of us because I wanted to do better, get on with things, and he had to keep stopping. So he didn't want to do the stuff I was doing because he didn't have the energy. And he was going to he was due to sort of have a the well man 50 checkup, and he didn't want to go to that and then be told, oh, you've got to go on blood pressure tablets, or you've got to do this, you've got to do that. And he was kind of starting to become very conscious about his health. And his blood pressure, I took his blood pressure all the way through his weight loss, and it was amazing how soon it started coming down once he started doing the right things.
I'm not even joking. Like that shoot that I did on the 18th of July, I think I did a shoot like a year beforehand, and the difference in his energy and the way that he talked, the way that he walked, he was just like bubbly, and like it was almost like he was running rings around me, and he could have kept going for another 6 hours afterwards.
Yeah, it's amazing. So for him, that health was the main motivator, and indeed that's kind of what I promote. Everything I do is about being healthy, and approaching weight loss in a healthy way with a healthy attitude. Learning. Oh, excuse me, my dog is licking her.
Oh my goodness, it's all right. I'll censor that.
Yes, yeah, do censor it. She's like, what's going on? But I think when it for you the reasons were quite different, and I think it's really important to point out that obviously, compared with Rick, you were not overweight, but you were over the weight that you were comfortable at,
Yeah.
and what you needed to be for your career.
Do you want to see? Do you want to see my waistband?
Yeah.
Oh my god! All right, here we go. So these are my normal trousers, and look how much more room.
That's fantastic.
I have.
Yeah.
It's like,
wow, that's amazing.
And that's just since. Well, it was since we first started, wasn't it?
And of course,
it was
because you were already quite close to your goal and a healthy weight. Every pound shows much more the closer you are to your goal. So half a stone may not sound very much if you've got 20, if you're 20 stone, half a stone is a lot if you're 10 stone. So, it's in context. And I think, you are now at the weight that you feel comfortable at again. And your goals are now slightly different. But I think, it's important to point that out, that obviously people have different goals. And, in terms of, your reasons for losing weight, if you hadn't done anything, bearing in mind the trajectory that you were on,
honestly, I would be in a really bad place if we hadn't have caught it when we did. The trajectory that I was on would have meant that I would not have been able to go forwards with the training courses, with the job aspects of things as well. Like, I would not have been able to go for certain roles in like movies and things because of where I was going. So maybe not this year, but maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, it would have just completely spiraled out, and we saw that. But it's the progress that I've made as well hasn't been because I've suddenly taken up massive amounts of running or spin classes, or I'm still active the way that I was. And I haven't needed to actually do anything crazy to get to this. And that's also something really important. Like, obviously stay fit, but you've managed to like harness how to keep people extremely healthy, as well as lose that excess pounds.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if someone was completely sedentary, we would have taken a different approach. But the fact that you were already quite active, we worked, pretty much all on what was going in, wasn't it? Changing that and changing your routines and putting in place some stability around what was going on. And I think, if we hadn't done that, weight gain is really kind of like, it can be really gradual. And, we did that sort of fork in the road exercise, didn't we? Where
we did.
We looked at where would you be if you didn't change anything.
That was awful. That was so scary.
Where would you be in 10 years' time? And quite possibly you might have been where Rick was.
I may have had a heart attack in 10 years' time. And it was so shocking as well as to how easy it is to deviate. And but at the same time, it was also very, very shocking at the fact that I didn't have to give anything up. And that was one of the biggest like deciders for me when it came to like going, oh yeah, Claire. I mean, obviously, like I was a bit biased to start with because we're mates, but once you started doing this course with me, I was just like, oh, this is gold dust. Like this is the secret to like a long and healthy life. This is not just the secret to weight loss. This is the secret, because like I was saying earlier, like my skin suddenly cleared up, and I was going to the doctor. I think you remember me saying I was actually going to the doctors saying that I had really bad cystic acne, and it was awful, to the point that they had actually prescribed me something that was quite extreme. And since we started, and since we looked at my diet and what I was doing with that, it just cleared up. And I was like, I mean, I still get the odd from time to time on my cycle, but my goodness, like the confidence that you've given me.
That's so good to hear, because thing is, our weight doesn't exist in isolation, and our weight and our confidence are often very, very closely related. But also, things like hormonal fluctuations can be worse if our diet is erratic. Things like anxiety levels can be worse if our
Oh,
diet
my
is erratic.
anxiety.
Sleep
Wow.
problems. If we're improving our
Yeah.
diet, we often improve our sleep, and if we improve our sleep, we improve our ability to make better choices, because we're not tired and reaching for those things that
Yeah.
we when we're feeling tired and emotional and stressed.
I can safely say, sorry, I can safely say that before we started working together, my anxiety was like so bad that I was having monthly or bi-weekly meltdowns.
Mhm.
And now I don't actually think I've had one since we've got a handle on my diet and my
Wow,
nutrition.
that's
Like
amazing.
I mean, I could feel it kind of creeping up and then it dissipates, because I'm just like, oh, okay, what did I eat the previous day? Or what did I eat 2 days before? And then I'm like, oh, that, okay. And then I don't have an anxiety attack,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
that's amazing.
it's life
Yeah.
changing.
Yeah, that is, and all these things, as I say, they're so closely related. And of course, when we're feeling rubbish, we tend to reach for rubbish food,
Yeah.
and then that just makes everything worse. So,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, she's doing it again. April,
It's all
April,
right.
stop it. Oh,
Oh, bless her.
so yes,
So,
it's really there's often a common denominator,
mm-hmm.
and that is eating the right sorts of foods the majority of the time, not all of the time, because let's face it, if we cut out all of the things we enjoy, we get rid of all the joy in our life, we're not going to stick at it, are we?
No, we're not.
We need to have room for those sorts of things, but with some boundaries in place. I kind of liken it to sort of like, bringing up a toddler in a way, in that, we've all got that inner child that wants to be rebellious and that
Yeah.
wants to kind of have everything now. And, we have to say, actually, you can't have everything now. You can have what you want, but you just got to have it when it's the right time,
Yeah. And
and in the right amount.
yeah, and what you do is you calculate it on a person to person basis,
Mm.
which actually I found really fascinating. The fact that you really do take that time to get to know the person that you're working with before then you start doing the actual work, and that
Absolutely.
is
So
that
important.
is incredibly important, I think, because then it's not just that get skinny quick diet thing.
Yeah.
You're actually doing it with the person's most well-being in mind, and you're tailoring everything you do to that one individual. And I think I don't think I've managed to find anybody like that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think, it's so important that we understand what the starting point is before we can make any changes. Otherwise, we're not going to know if we're making the right changes.
Yeah.
We're not going to know what needs to be, tweaked. And we keep a close eye on that, so that we're always making the right decisions that are in support of where you want to get to.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to work.
So let's talk about you. Where's your little story? Hang on, let me find it. So your story, because you're not coming from like zero background in this. You've taken an awful long time learning what you know. Um, and it has been over quite a long period of time, hasn't it? You're
Yeah. Well,
pretty
yeah.
well and truly mastered this whole, technique. So tell us a little bit about like where you come from in terms of this whole journey.
Okay. Well, I think as a child, I was always aware that I was slightly on the chubby side. Although, having said that, looking at photos of myself as a child now, I kind of think I don't know where I got that idea from, because I wasn't. I clearly wasn't. And then I remember I was quite an early developer at school, and I remember being very conscious of my body changing and being very different to the other children. And I went to a girls' secondary school, so in the changing rooms I was kind of like really, really aware and thinking I'm getting fat. I wasn't getting fat, I was just developing. So of course went on my first diet at around, I don't know, 12, 13 years old, and then it just kind of like I was just on and off a diet for the next 25 years basically. And
Wow.
and through my teens, I wasn't actually overweight, but thought I was, as many teenage girls do,
Yeah, I
sadly.
know I did.
And we're so conscious of our bodies, and our self-esteem is all tied up in that. And it's complex. It's far too complex to go into now. But then through my sort of 20s and 30s, I was literally, putting on 2-3 stone, losing 2-3 stone, putting on 2-3 stone. The most I kind of gained and lost was like 5 stone. And I did actually get a bit too thin for comfort at one point. So I'm kind of like a bit higher than my lowest ever weight, but I'm happy. It's the happy medium. And so for sort of 25 years I was yo-yo dieting, as they call it, and tried all sorts of different things. And then I stopped smoking in 2006. And what I discovered about myself was that that I could stop smoking. I don't like to say give up, actually, because I don't think I gave up anything. I gained a new life when I stopped smoking. And I then I was actually at my lowest weight at that point. Stopped smoking, and then I had I had a period of ill health, and I basically piled pretty much all my weight back on after stopping smoking. Not because I'd stopped smoking. I actually kept my weight off for about a year after I stopped smoking, and I took up running when I stopped smoking, because I was like, I've got to do something that's going to make me not want to smoke again. And running and smoking are not very compatible, are they, really? So I thought, right, I'll start running. But so then I went through a period of ill health, but I loved running so much, I carried on running. And this is a really important message, right? Okay, because running does not make you lose weight, and it's perfectly possible to put on weight whilst running. Like the same, I managed to put on loads of weight whilst breastfeeding. You're supposed to lose weight while breastfeeding, not me. I put it on because I just ate more. That's the bottom line. So when you go running, your body needs more fuel, makes you hungry, you eat more. So it's really difficult to lose weight if you do a lot of running, as I found out. And this is why, even if you do a lot of exercise, if you're still eating too much, you're not going to lose weight. So it's about getting that balance right for you as an individual as to how much exercise, how much.
And it also really depends on what time you're eating it as well. The one thing that we noticed about me as an individual, and this is just my own personal experience and my story, is that I was eating just at the wrong times, that then caused me to just spiral out and then suddenly have an effect 3, 4, 5 days down the line, but you being the professional and the expert that you are, you were able to look at the diary and go, right, this is where we're going wrong for you, and this is how we're going to change it for you. Now, this is going to be different for literally everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about, if you're keeping a close eye on what's happening, you can make those changes. So I carried on putting on weight whilst I was running, and then I ended up doing the London Marathon in 2009, which was my kind of like, I started running, did a race for life. Oh yeah, next stop London Marathon. Know what I was thinking. So, but over that time, I put on 3 stone. So I turned up to the London Marathon in really bad shape because through my training, I was overtraining for my body. My hips were crying out in pain, but I turned up because I raised £2,000 in sponsors money. So of course I got to do it, haven't I? So I'm standing there on the start line. I ended up walking the second half. I couldn't run it, even though I'd done a lot of training, because of the weight that I was. My body couldn't cope with it. So I was already overtrained by the time I got to the start line. Anyway. Cut a long story short, I ended up with hip bursitis in both hips after doing the London Marathon in 2009. Took me 6 months to get back up to being able to run 10 kilometres, which is 6 miles. Marathon is 26 miles. But I was determined, but it made me really go, do you know what? If I want to carry on running, I've got to lose weight. I've got to get this weight off. And I then took a very different approach to losing weight than I did ever before, and it was that approach that I kind of I suppose I advocate, but I also am very well aware of, there is we're all different and different people need different things. So one of the things I do is I help people to find what's right for them, which may be
Yeah.
different from what I did, and that's absolutely okay. But it was really the work that I did on my mindset over the
Mhm.
next 2 years, and using the learning from stopping smoking. So what was it that I did about stopping smoking that made it so successful?
So
And I
you
looked,
basically find everything. Uh, you get to know the person, then you get to find the triggers in which then will help them achieve whatever goal it is that they have.
yeah, absolutely. But I developed my own framework, which many years later, based on what I did with my smoking and with when I lost the weight for good. So so come summer 2011, I hit the weight that I am now, and I then carried on running, and what I found was that, hey, I was getting a lot better at running. I was getting faster. I was suddenly, getting loads of personal best times, and I was really sort of hitting some goals that previously had just seemed so unachievable to me. And then I ended up, there was an opportunity to join the local fire service as a part-time firefighter, and again, that was something I was never in a million years would have considered that I could do. But because I'd got to the level of fitness that I got, and then that was like, right, I've got to work on my strength. I had no upper body strength. I think, how am I going to be a firefighter and lift ladders and things like that if I can't lift anything up? So straight down the gym. Right, I need to be able to do this. Give me a program to be able to do this so I can pass the fitness test. So they did, and I passed the fitness test, and then that kind of like completely changed my outlook on my purpose. Up to that, I'd been very kind of appearance driven, I have to say. It was more about feeling confident in how I looked, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I
Yeah.
think if we want to succeed with something, we've got to really get into the real deep reasons. It's got to be like a higher purpose, if you
Hmm.
like.
Absolutely.
And so sort of thinking, well, I've got to be fit and strong to be able to save people's lives. So that's a pretty good reason, I think, to keep my fitness up and my health and all of those sorts of things. So cut a long story short, the next few years I did loads of marathons, and I was in the fire service for 4 years, and I did leave in the end because it just wasn't compatible with because I was holding down a full-time job with the
Yeah.
NHS at the same time as a manager. So
Wow.
trying to do that and part-time firefighting in the middle of the night and things like that was just, it didn't work out too well in the long run. So I had to kind of knock that on the head. But I carried on obviously with my job. And then it got to sort of 2017, and I had started to put on a little bit of weight, which I had was really quite concerned about, because all this time I'd been, had everything under control. And the reason for it was because my dad had become ill, and I'd also had an injury, and I'd
Yeah.
had an operation. So there was a number of things that happened in quite quick succession that made me take my eye off the ball, basically. So I was looking after my dad, I wasn't looking after myself. But then I quickly realised what was happening, and I'm like, this isn't happening. I'm not going to allow this to happen, because I
Yeah.
can see where I'm going to end up if I carry on. So I literally just took myself back in hand and basically said, right, I've set myself a goal. I'm going to get rid of this. It was about a stone I put on, so I basically plastered it all over social media. This is my goal. This is what I'm doing, and I was posting every day. Going, right, this is what I've done, had to eat. This is how exercise I've done, and this is how much water I've drunk, and this is to try and keep myself accountable.
Yeah.
And what I found was that people were commenting and messaging me going, wow, that's really inspiring. You've inspired me to do this. And, and people would ask me for advice. And sadly, my dad became very ill and then sadly passed away. But during that time, but he was ill, and I had to take a career break from work to look after him.
Hmm.
It kind of like showed me a different world,
Yeah.
and I kind of thought, why am I not doing what I'm really passionate about, and knowing that I can help people to
Yeah.
be healthier, and having a background in the NHS and seeing what happens to people who don't look after their health, and seeing what happens to people. Long time before I joined the NHS, I was a prison officer, so I've seen the end result of what happens to people when things go wrong.
Yeah.
And I've also worked in children's services where there's this, wonderful opportunity to set people on the right path, and also work with parents and things like that to, help their children to be healthy. So with all of that sort of background and my managerial background, I decided to basically leave my job and start my own business. I didn't really know what I was going to call myself or what it was going to be. I just knew I wanted to help people to get healthier, in a kind of like a coaching role. And I thought, I don't know what even is that, and I started, doing research, and like, oh, life coach. Yeah, life coach. That's what I want to do. But I've got to do personal training as well, because I want to be able to help people with exercise. And that's kind of how it started. So then I mapped out my whole kind of like training plan, and I had started a psychology degree as well. And that was really kind of getting it. And I did a nutrition coaching course and a financial coaching course and counselling skills course and neuro-linguistic programming and life coaching, and as well as the personal training with obesity and diabetes specialism. And and then as soon as I got my personal training qualification, that was it. People were going, oh, I want to work with you. So I was like, oh, okay. So then I just kind of like started putting things together formally. So I kind of went live, was March the 9th 2020. Guess what happened 2 weeks later?
Oh no.
Lockdown.
Yep.
And so I had to very quickly pivot to working online, which was always going to be part of my plan, but I wasn't sure that people were ready for it. But people were then forced to be ready for it. So
yeah, absolutely.
And then it just kind of like went from there. And then I realised that I needed to have different options for different people, because people are so different and unique, and people need different things. Some people just need a bit of hand holding and a bit of accountability. Other people need to really, go through things really, really in depth and change their whole mindset. And some people need something in between, and people need different things at different times. And, I wanted to be able to have things where people can work with me intensively and then have like something to just keep them on track with accountability. So I offer all sorts of different things, and my program came out of, well, we've been calling it my course. I'm calling it my program now, where it basically takes people through my framework step by step, and it enables them to tailor what they need to themselves with my support, obviously.
And I think that really worked with me as well, though, like the online stuff, obviously, because we're relatively a long way away from each other. It's probably about a couple of hours, but also like with my ADHD and the fact that I'm very hard to pin down sometimes and actually concentrate on something and really focus on something for longer than a few hours. I think the way that you've explained it is actually like not just got me engaged, it's become something I don't have to think about consciously. It is a subconscious movement now.
Yeah,
and that really
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
that really is. And that's what I get told with people, when I ask how are you getting on, what progress do you think you've made? And then I had a lady the other day, it was lovely. She said to me, I had a text from her saying, I don't know if this is working for me, I don't know if I can do this. So I said, look, let's have a quick phone call. So we had a phone call, and in that phone call, I was asking her, obviously, what was going on for her, to make her feel that way. And I asked her what progress she thinks, or what's changed? What's changed for you? And then she started reeling off all of this list about how she'd stopped eating the cream cakes, and how she was sleeping better, and she was making better choices. And she said, do you know what? She said, until you asked me, I hadn't realised that I was doing those things. They've been happening so automatically. That's the point we need to get to.
Yeah. I think with me, the most shocking thing for me that I've recently realised was the fact that I stopped eating when I was satisfied, not when I was full. And I tell you what, that is shocking for me, being a wolf.
Yeah. But this is amazing. It's about getting back in tune with our bodies, because we've forgotten how to do that.
It's like reprogramming.
Yeah.
Like society, especially like the fast food industry, and this is something huge for me. I absolutely hate the fast food industry, literally because it has got so much toxic stuff in it. I mean, that famous cook that I won't mention just in case that I just get a DMCA or whatever. Him taking that takeaway company to court and winning because there was so much toxic shite in the food. Like, and I just got to the point where I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. And then I finally found myself like in this like almost like a ritual without even realizing it. And I've stopped eating too much. I've stopped eating too quickly. And it's reprogramming, like hands down. Like I stopped drinking those energy drinks. And, like, I mean, I never really was much of a fan in recent years, but it made me realize what was in it. To then make me realize what was in other things, to then make me realize, oh, actually, this sandwich from this place actually is way better than something that I would think would be more healthy. And it's just, opening my eyes, I think it was, to what's really in things as well.
Yeah. And I think what made it so successful for you though, Luna, I think, and this is so important, is that you came to me with an open mind and you were willing to do the work. Because what I think, I'll include myself in this in the past, is that, we sometimes we spend money on things thinking that they're going to do the work for us.
Yeah, no.
and unfortunately they don't. And the only thing that really is going to make a difference is actually being willing to put the effort in and being committed to the process
and honest with yourself.
And honest, yeah. And that obviously that's where I start with everybody, is like, okay, so what's really going on for you right now? Not what you think is going on, but what's actually really happening. Are you really doing as much exercise as you say you're doing? Are you really eating as little as you say you're doing? Because we are very well known to underreport what we eat and overreport how active we are. It's so I get people to really look honestly at what they're currently doing, and then we start where they are and look at what changes need to be made for that individual as I take them through my framework. So the framework itself is I suppose quite rigid, but what we do within it is very, very flexible, because we look at each stage and it's a building blocks. So like I call it my jigsaw puzzle. We put the jigsaw puzzle together and we find out which are your missing pieces, so that we can then fill them, so that once you've got all of those elements working together and they fit together and then they're working together, that's when you get success, because all of the right things are in place.
Yeah, and I absolutely love the fact though that that's going to be completely different to every individual, and you've harnessed a way of tailoring every single time someone comes to you. You've harnessed this course to literally just be for that one individual. And then the next time somebody comes, it's for them, and then the next time it's for them, and it's different every single time. And I love the way, I love this dedication that you've like put into creating this whole structure that, yes, it works for everybody, but it's also very different for everybody, Yeah.
And it is dependent though on you doing the work, because if you're not engaged in the process, then nothing I say or do will make any difference. But if you are engaged and doing, turning up to the sessions, doing the work, then you'll get the results. You it's like with anything, we get out of it what we put in. And there's areas of it that we didn't need to go into in much depth because you already had strengths in those areas. So we would say, okay, so we'll just skim over those, and then we'll work harder on those areas where you need more attention, and that's what we did. So.
I really feel like I've retuned myself to the 47-year-old me in the future. Jeez, oh my
goodness. I don't know it's onto my age. I don't know thinking about. But unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. But what we can do is be as healthy as possible, give ourselves the best possible chance of, reaching those future ages in the best possible
absolutely
state. this is not about, I know obviously, appearance, it does help in terms of, if we're feeling confident in how we look, it does tend to pervade through us in other ways. But
Yeah.
ultimately, I think where the penny dropped for me, when, so this is probably a really helpful defining moment to share, is that I was standing outside our back door in 2006, and I had a cigarette in my hand, and I was standing like this, and I've got the cigarette here and the smoke, and I looked at that photograph, because there weren't very many photographs of me smoking, and I looked at that photograph and I was like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And it was that real penny drop moment, is that actually, if I want my body to last me as long as I want it to last me in good shape, I'm going to have to make some changes.
Yeah.
Because, ultimately, do we not want to live as full and long a life as possible? And if our body is not working properly,
Yeah.
then
that was similar to when I quit smoking.
Yeah.
So I had the same kind of, oh my God moment when I actually stopped smoking. I mean, I didn't really smoke that much in the very beginning anyway, but at the same time, it was a very much, oh my goodness, what am I doing to this? Because this is a vessel that we're in, this is like a car, like, you have to keep it well maintained, and if you don't keep it well maintained, it's going to break down. No matter what, your brain and your body will break down. It's just,
so they've got to be working together. Your mind and your body have got to be in unison, as opposed to our more primitive brain taking control and driving us to certain behaviors. We have all got the power within us to make the changes that we need to make, but we're not necessarily aware of it. We don't necessarily use that power because we sometimes don't know how to. And it's about unlocking that so that we can then make better decisions that are in support of what we're trying to achieve and ultimately what we want. Because if we're fighting against what we want because we really want the takeaways and the restaurant meals, and we're denying ourselves, and we're going to be in conflict, and it's not going to work. So we need to come at it from a different
perspective. Yeah. And so, in terms and like bearing all of this in mind, and what we've already said so far, for the watchers and the listeners, because I'm going to put this up on Spotify as well. Who is this course for? Who are you really wanting to help? And I know that's a pretty
It's really difficult. It's a really difficult question to answer because it's kind of all my clients and all my course participants, everybody's different. There's not kind of like one defining factor about who I can help, and I've helped people of all different ages, and men and women, and so I think the key thing is it's some people who want to lose weight permanently. So they want, and they're prepared to put the work in, because there's no point in coming to me if you want a quick fix and you're not prepared to put the work in. If you're prepared to do the work, it works if you're prepared to do the work. So I suppose it's really anyone who is prepared to do the work and wants to lose weight in a healthy way for life, to change their relationship with food and with themselves.
And who's ready to be honest with themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if someone comes to me and they're after me putting them on a diet program, then I'm not the right person for them. Right. But if they're coming to me because they've tried lots of different things in the past and they are wanting to have a fresh approach that works on their mindset rather than, at its core. I mean, obviously, I still give advice around, what foods to eat and what exercise to do, because I'm trained to do that. But, there's lots of other people who can help with that. There's not so many people who can help with working on the mindset changes that need to take place in order to be able to stick to the changes in the diet and the exercise. It's that sort of fundamental shift that needs to happen
I
in
think
order to
that's
then.
I think that's the one thing that I was absolutely the most surprised about, because like I said, after seeing Rick and his amazing like change, the way he was, the way he looked, the way he acted and everything like that, it wasn't just that I like realized that you do as well. That after we were working together, obviously I started to drop the weight and feel better about myself, but I started to put that mindset into everything that I did in life.
Yes.
And it's actually not even a weight management program. It is just changing your life for the better and becoming as close as you can to a superhero in your mind and your body and your spirit. And I think that if anybody wants to become that, then these are the people for you, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely, and you've hit the nail on the head. Really, it's like it's changing how we manage ourselves generally, as opposed to managing ourselves particularly about one particular issue. Obviously, um, weight management is my specialty, but I am a life coach in that I can help people with any aspect of their life that they want to change for the better. But I've chosen weight loss because it's an area that I'm very passionate about, having been on the journey myself and succeeded where, it is really, really hard to succeed. But with the right combination of ingredients in place, it's perfectly possible.
Yeah.
And that's what I want people to see.
And it was so shocking as to how easy it is as well. Once you explained it to me in the ways that you did, it was actually shocking as to how easy it was to change my life.
And also, I think I know you put something along these lines. I think on your post-course form, which was about once you fully realised what was causing your weight gain, it was no longer out of your control.
Yeah, exactly. And I just like from from the 18th of July to now, I'm a completely different person. And I can't tell you any one thing that you've done in the not one thing in specifically. It's the whole thing in the way that it all kind of fits together, and the way that you've explained it, and the way that you've explained it to me as an individual in terms that I can understand. And I'm eternally grateful for that, because I'm never going to go back, and this is just my way of life now. And I feel like I've got way more energy, and like I'm ready.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And I think that's something you did say to me actually a couple of weeks back, was that now that you've learned this, you can't unlearn it.
Yeah, exactly. That is, again, it's a completely different way of living, because it is the way of living that you change.
Yeah, because you want to.
And there is no going back. I mean, I no, there is no scenario that I can think of that I would slip back into that way of living now. And it's a permanent change.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because fundamentally we're changing what you want.
Yeah.
And recognizing your power and using it. And it's again, I think something that a lot of people get kind of stuck in is like spending money on pills to fix something.
Oh, don't. The amount of money I've spent on pharmaceuticals thinking that would fix me.
And then it's just, changing the fundamentals. You don't need those pills, because you're changing things at source rather than sticking a sticking plaster over things.
Yep, absolutely.
And
me going from that whole I can't to realizing, oh yeah, I can.
Yeah. And I think sometimes it takes someone that that you've seen has done the journey to be able to say, well, if they can do it,
yeah, absolutely. Honestly, hands down, I was just like, whoa, Rick, like I didn't realize that you were so unhealthy before, but now I realize, because look how fucking amazingly healthy you are now. Like, wow, man.
I'm incredibly proud of him, and so relieved, because obviously I was extremely worried, especially doing the work that I was doing. And it was while I was doing my personal training because there was a whole load of online work I had to do before going off to London to do my 3-week course.
Yeah.
And it was while I was doing that, and I was, of course, I'm becoming more and more aware of the risks and you know, all of those sorts of things that, you know, go along with being overweight, and you know, his blood pressure readings, and I'm thinking, crikey, you know, I'd say to him, you know, I'm really worried about you. I you know, I really am. He said, well, tell you what, when you get back from your training course, will you coach me?
Yeah.
And I said, yes, of course I will. So and that was it. He was actually my first client because he started with me a month before I actually started my business. And yeah, great advert, because as I say, he's
absolutely, he's got like a proper man glow going on there, like that whole like aura of like he's ready for anything kind of thing. Amazing.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you know, and he's never going to put it back on. There's no way it's going back on, because he's just completely changed the way he does things, and that's what it has to be. You know, it's not do something for a short time that's different, that's completely different to how you like to be. You know, it's making those changes in a way that fits with your life. That's crucial, really.
Without giving up all the good things that you really enjoy. I love it.
Yeah, and getting that happy medium.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to say to the watchers and listeners? Apart from, obviously, I'm going to be an advocate and say go and see Claire if you guys want to change your life for the better.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
where can we find you?
If anybody wants to find out more, they can visit my website, which is www.youronelife.co.uk, and there's various different options on my website as to how I work with people, and there's the option there to book a free discovery call with me, and we can have a chat and you know, go from there, really. And you know, I'm absolutely passionate about helping people manage their weight, because I know it can be done. And you know, I don't want people to be in that situation and say, well, I've tried everything and nothing works, and so I'm destined to be overweight forever. That's not true.
That was literally my words when I came to you.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
Well, you know.
I know firsthand. I know, and you guys have now seen the evidence, and if you need even more evidence, there's loads of before and after photos on Claire's website. I will put all of the details down in the description below, so that you can view the website. You can even follow Claire on Instagram. And apart from that, I think that's about it, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, and all those wonderful creatures in between, this has been a wonderful hour, I think, talking to Claire. But for now, I bid you adieu. See you later, guys.
Bye.